With 1 week to go to the NFL draft, it's about that time to release my first and only mock draft on Tom Was Here. Hi everyone! Tom Was Here, back at it, and this time we are doing our fourth, can you believe it? Fourth annual Wishful Thinking mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers 2021 draft. This year, unlike seemingly any other year that I can remember, the Steelers have some holes. Now, in those years past, they had holes as well, but holes like, this certain player, I don't like, or this certain player is getting too long in the tooth, or this certain player, but not like noticeable holes that need to be filled, unlike this year. So, who knows what they're going to do in the first round? Who knows what they're going to do in this draft? They could go in so many different directions. They could trade up. They could trade down. They could stand pat and choose a position no one's thinking about. Very quietly and very deliberately, Kevin Colbert in the last few months has been going around and signing these low-key players, either returning free agents like Vince Williams and Tyson Alualu, to Joe Haig and the BJ Finney, basically to shore up these roster spots that were really like gaping holes. Now have veteran returning players. So the concern there is that they may be fine going with certain positions that you and I think are needs. They may be fine just sticking with those players and putting the Band-Aids on it and saying, this will work. But with the wishful thinking mock draft, the chips fall the Steelers' way. Any chances that they seemingly take in my version of this draft gets made up for, players fall in certain positions. Sometimes players fall rounds before they'll probably go in the real draft. And this is not a perfect draft. But I do feel this draft makes the Pittsburgh Steelers a better team in 2021. So without further ado, let's get into the picks. With the 24th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Najee Harris, running back, Alabama. Round 1, pick 24. The pick is Najee Harris, running back out of the University of Alabama. I played with different scenarios here. I had scenarios that I've kind of done over the last few weeks to kind of, in preparation, do this. And, I had players like J.C. Horn and Micah Parsons kind of falling to the Steelers at 24 and what that would look like. And maybe they can't pass on those players because in late mock drafts, players like J.C. Horn and Micah Parsons have fallen as low as 19-20. And if they've fallen as low as 19-20, they can fall to 24, where the Steelers pick. Based on this scenario, though, and potentially this could be a trade-down scenario, just because the Steelers have a lot of holes to fill, I think they go with this pick, and I'll tell you why they go with this pick. People want to argue that this is a luxury or a value pick. I saw those bozos on Good Morning Football talk about this, where it's like, this is a luxury pick, and they have so many other holes to fill. The Steelers were dead last in the league in rushing last year. And you can blame some of that on the offensive line. Some of it. But the fact is, Connor was not great last year. Benny Snell, when given the rock, showed flashes but was not great last year. Anthony McFarland, their 4th round pick, barely did anything. No, and once again, you can chalk it up to O-line issues. But you need someone. Because the people that argue against, taking a running back are going to be the same people that are in week 4 of the season going, oh, these running backs suck. We have a better offensive line, but Benny Snow can't get a yard. Yeah, the Steelers lost several games last year because they couldn't get a yard. You know what I like about Najee? The feet are always moving. Guy is a playmaker, a dynamic playmaker. Benny is solid. He will be a solid second guy. Barring injury, barring, change his pace, a spell back, whatever, he'll be fine. But he's not your guy. He's not your bell cow. Najee is. And, argument could be made for Travis Etienne, and understandably so. They say he has an Alvin Kamara skill set. The reason why I picked Najee because when you see the tape on this guy, he is a dynamic game changer, a dynamic playmaker. He can catch out of the backfield. He fights for yardage. He doesn't go down on the first hit and makes contact when he's ending the play. He wants you to feel him rushing the ball. That's a Pittsburgh Steeler. For me. In the league, although, I've seen a hurdle or two. It just seems that there's a lot of highlights of Najee hurdling one or two guys or whatever. But I appreciate the ability to gain a yard, which the Steelers could not do last year. The guy's tough. He's battle-tested. Now, you can say he's had a lot of carries. And you can talk about, he's a luxury pick because running backs are a dime a dozen. Running backs weren't dime a dozen to the Steelers last year. They couldn't rush the ball. And once this league figured out that Ben was getting the ball out in about 2.5 seconds each play, and they couldn't run the ball, they had them pegged. And that's why they collapsed down the stretch. You can argue the COVID, he might not last 5 years because running backs don't last 5 years. Well, Bud Dupree, had a franchise 5 years in a franchise tag, and he's gone. Terrell Edmonds, probably his last season. Those are first-round picks. Ziggy Hood only lasted one deal. Jarvis Jones only lasted one deal. So if you can get 5+ years out of Najee, or 6 years, or 7 years, this is the new NFL. It sounds like a good play to me. Now, you could argue that, maybe you're passing on your tackle for the next decade, and you may be right. Or your guard for the next decade, and you may be right. That person may be there, but that person may easily be gone after the first contract. You don't know what you're going to get out of some of these players. So the fact is, if you're going to get somebody that's dynamic, that's going to change the game, somebody that we haven't had since Le'Veon Bell, and look, I like Connor. I like Connor a lot. But Connor had some hard-nosed runs. He had a Pro Bowl season, but he was injury-prone all throughout. He had games where he was just terrible. I have a video on this channel from the Ravens game where we played the Ravens at home and one of our losses in that season, and I think he went 13 carries for 9 yards. He was terrible. And that wasn't an O-line's fault. That was actually pretty good O-line that year. So, Najee's the pick here. He's dynamic. He's a superstar. He's someone that improves your run game right away. He can make something out of nothing. And I think it's your pick. Maybe not necessarily at 24. Maybe they trade back and attempt to get him. I don't think they trade up and attempt to get him. There's rumors of Dolphins going after him at 18. So this is my wishful thinking pick, is that he falls to 24, which is possible. People want the Steelers to wait till 55. What if Harris is gone? What if Etienne is gone? What if Javonte Williams is gone? Who do you got? You got another Band-Aid, another Benny Snell, another Anthony McFarland. We don't need that. We need a top guy. And unfortunately, it's not a position like last year where it's Dobbins, he's still sitting there at our pick. There's not going to be a Dobbins there at our pick. There's going to be nobody there at our pick. So you got to take him now. Like I said, you could trade back maybe later into the first, maybe into the early second to get him. But either way, you got to make that pick as your first pick. With the 55th pick in the second round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, Florida State. Round 2, pick 55. The Steelers take Asante Samuel Jr., cornerback, Florida State. Oh no, I didn't address the O-line again. And I'll tell you why, because I know the Steelers and I know how they roll. The Steelers get jittery if they don't take a defensive player in the first 2 rounds. They can't help it. And the thing with Asante Samuel Jr. is that, you know, some people say he's undersized for a corner. He's 5'10". That's pretty much standard corner size. I think the default's like 5'11". So he's an inch smaller than the corner. But the pedigree's there. The bloodline is there. The ball hawking, tracing ability is there. He has receiver tendencies for a cornerback. He knows when the move is going to be made. He knows when they're breaking, when they're cutting. He makes that play each time. And look, you know, unexpectedly, we have cornerback holes. You know, Mike Hilton, we kind of expected to be gone. Steven Nelson, I didn't. You didn't. I still don't know what happened there. You could say it's a cost-cutting move. He was the younger of the players between him and Hayden. They kept Hayden around because of, you know, I would say leadership and locker room. But Hayden's getting older. He's not spring chicken anymore. You need some young blood. And you could say Cameron Sutton could be that guy. And Cameron Sutton has shown flashes when he has the ability to get in there. But Cameron Sutton can't play Mike Hilton's role and Steven Nelson's role at the same time. You're going to need to bring in someone who can, you know, maybe spot start occasionally. Maybe someone that has to, you know, fill in for an extended long injury to Sutton or Hayden. And Samuel's that guy. They couldn't pass him up here at 55. He arguably shouldn't be here at 55. And that's why they take him. They had other needs. They had other choices on the board. They thought about implementing those other choices, but decided upon Samuel because they love that pedigree. They love that bloodline. They want, you know, the Steelers love that type of stuff. They want that type of player on the team. They want somebody that has the chops. And Asante Samuel Jr., you know, watching those highlights, has the goods. I mean, he's making plays left and right. So he shouldn't be here at 55. Maybe being, you know, touted as undersized, you know, maybe that is somewhere that puts him at 55. But either way, the Steelers run that card in and take him at 55. With the 87th pick of the third round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Quinn Meinerz, center, Wisconsin Whitewater. Round 3, pick 87. The Steelers take Quinn Meinerz, center, University of Wisconsin Whitewater. I know what you're thinking. Well, first of all, hey, we got a center, right? You know, BJ Finney, BJ Finney's the backup plan. I do think the Steelers feel confident, but just because BJ Finney played so many games for the Steelers at center with nagging pouncy injuries, that they feel confident they can put him in and him be the day one starter. But the fact is, you need a up-and-coming center. I wouldn't be surprised if this Quinn Meinerz pick is the pick in round 2. Very possible it could be. He falls to 3 here because he's at a tiny school. University of Wisconsin Whitewater. He has not played the big competition. He has played small competition. And that's a fact that, you know, whatever team drafts him, that they're going to be dealing with. Now, the fact that his tape and his intangibles and his pro day and everything is kind of off the charts, and the fact that the Steelers put work in on him, that they brought other scouts out to, you know, Wisconsin Whitewater to work him out, is a testament to how they feel about him as a player. I think this could be the pick. In fact, I think this guy ends up a Steeler. I don't know necessarily in what round. Steelers are thrilled to get him in round 3. They don't have to trade up for him. They get him in round 3 because of the small school. So, you know, he's a mauler. He plays with the chip. He plays angry. He's big. he's your center for the next decade, and the hopes is that he is. Other players like Ali Marpet have transferred from small schools, so it's not something like this is the first guy ever to go from a small school to be a productive NFL player. Let's look at a round 4 pick from quite a few years ago from Louisiana Lafayette. The name was Ike Taylor. And they got him in the 4th round, and he had a very serviceable NFL career where he was, almost shut down for a few seasons there. Now, let's not remember the Tebow pass to Demaryius Thomas. Let's forget about that. But beyond that, Ike Taylor was great. So the pick, Quinn Meinerz, that is your center of the future. He may be the day 1 starter and have Finney as a backup. That's the ideal scenario for the Steelers. If you have a center, if you get a center in this draft, I feel the guard play is much improved. Kevin Dotson at left and DeCastro at right. DeCastro had some nagging injuries last year. I think, hopefully he'll come back healthy and he'll be back to the player he was before. Dotson is a player on the rise, and I think he has a dynamite season this year. I feel very good in Dotson. Now, the tackles, the Steelers, I hate to break it to you, I think the Steelers feel confident that Zach Banner and Chuck Okafor are your 2 tackles, day 1. And based on this draft so far, they are. I don't think anybody comes in and takes that spot from them. So, 3 picks in. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts so far. And then let me know your thoughts at the end of the draft as well. With the 128th pick in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Tommy Tremble, tight end, Notre Dame. Round 4, pick 128. Pittsburgh Steelers take Tommy T2 Tremble, tight end, Notre Dame. Now, beyond Eric Ebron, you don't have a backup tight end. Vance McDonald retired. Zach Gentry is a couple Gatorade canisters stacked up to 6'8". I mean, what has he done? He's done hardly anything. He probably won't be on the team this year unless they need, a depth third. I personally, make a call to Jesse James to take Gentry's spot. I don't think Gentry has done enough to warrant being on this team. And that's disappointing because he has great size. He's huge, and you hope that he would be a better blocker and, better dynamic threat, a better pass catcher, but that was probably a wasted pick a few years back, unfortunately. But here you take Tommy Tremble. Now, he's a bit undersized for a tight end, a 6'4", but my, oh my, can he block everything. In fact, he's a hybrid fullback. He is a fullback tight end. And, he's shown some ability to pass catch, but you don't necessarily need him for that. You have Ebron for that for another season. This guy is somebody that you can groom into eventually being the top guy, but he can block like you'd want anyone to block. I mean, you want to help your run game. Get this dude on your team. The reason why he would fall here is because, they're like, oh, is he a fullback? Is he a tight end? And maybe teams, now he comes from a top school, Notre Dame. I don't think teams are going to sleep on him. But just in case they do, I did several mock drafts on things like PFF, who sucks, by the way, but also the Draft Network. And, Tremble's fallen into the 4th in both of those. Now, are they realistic? Who's to say? But Tremble falls into the 4th, and look at the highlights. I mean, the guy sits there and he blocks and blocks and blocks. He's making blocks left and right. He's just run blocking. He's pass proing. He's doing everything he needs to do blocking-wise, and that is an ideal Steelers need. Could go around earlier. Could take him in the 3rd. But either way, just based on the tape, just based on how I feel, Tommy Tremble, hopefully, ends up a Steeler. Get him in the 4th round. Steal of a deal. Think he's the tight end of the future. With the 140th pick in the 4th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Patrick Jones, outside linebacker, Pittsburgh. Round 4, pick 140, second pick in the 4th round. Pittsburgh Steelers take Patrick Jones, outside linebacker, University of Pittsburgh. Now, Patrick Jones has a nice tape. Patrick Jones was a dynamic playmaker for the Panthers. The problem is, and the reason why he's fell this far, is because there is experts divided on what type of pro he's going to be. Is he a 3-4 outside linebacker, or is he a 4-3 outside linebacker? No one seems to know, because I've read conflicting reports. Steelers, considering they run a 3-4, in this case, he's a 3-4 outside linebacker. He has some inconsistencies, but he showed flashes of greatness. Greatness! And so, the fact is, and I have to speak to, listen, experts, hi, I don't get paid for this. I'm doing this for fun. But let me explain something to you expert people. The Steelers addressed their loss of Bud Dupree. They've addressed it. His name is Alex Highsmith. Know him. Love him. Remember him, because you'll regret it. Alex Highsmith is your Bud Dupree replacement. You don't need a Bud replacement. You need depth. Patrick Jones gives you that depth. That's all you need. You need depth for both outside linebacker positions. Patrick Jones is it. Well, he's it on one side, and I think you get a cheap, serviceable journeyman for outside linebacker on the other side. Just as an added depth piece. But Patrick Jones is an edge rusher. I wouldn't be surprised if they went edge rusher in the first round. The Steelers, knowing they need offensive help, always seem to love going linebacker in the first. I wouldn't be shocked if they did it here, considering the large contingent of edge rushers available. But let's say they wait till the 4th here and they take Patrick Jones, outside linebacker from Pittsburgh, because they don't need him to be the guy. They don't need him to be a Bud Dupree replacement. They need him to be an Alex Highsmith backup replacement. That's what they need. So anytime you hear these buzzers go, we need a replacement, they need a replacement for Bud. No, they don't. They need depth and a backup. And Patrick Jones is it. I mean, look at the tape. Like I said, flashing greatness, has size, has speed, has ability, and will provide depth. Maybe he works his way into a starter spot at some point. Maybe Highsmith doesn't have the goods. I think he does. But we'll see how that goes. With the 216th pick in the 6th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Robert Hainsey, guard, Notre Dame. Round 6, pick 216. The Steelers take Robert Hainsey, offensive guard, Notre Dame. Now, offensive guard is not doing him a great service because he is far more than that. He has what the Steelers love from an offensive lineman. Love! He can play almost all positions. At the Senior Bowl, he lined up as a center and looked natural. He lined up as a guard, and he lined up as a tackle. Now, he may be too small, they say, to play the tackle position. 6'4", 300 pounds. I'd give it a shot just to see. He was a starter at Notre Dame. Now, will he fall to the 6th tier? Maybe. The reason why I give you that is because he's a jack of all trades, master of none. He can play center. He can play guard. He can play tackle. Doesn't have ideal size for any of them, but capable. So maybe he falls to the 6th tier. And what does he do? He provides depth. Because you have, I'm telling you, and I will hammer this home again, Colbert and Tomlin right now, and I hate to break it to you, barring, unless they take a first-round tackle and he's just like the dynamic, monster of a tackle, don't be shocked if day 1, week 1, the starting tackles are Zach Banner and Chuck Okafor. Because that's probably going to happen. Even if they take a top tackle, that's probably going to happen. Now they can groom that tackle into that, and they have a swing tackle in Joe Haig from Tampa Bay Bucks. But you need someone that can play all the positions in a pinch. And Hainsey's it. Not only that, he's a local product. He's out of Gateway. So, local to the area, hometown kid, playing for the hometown Pittsburgh Steelers, can play center in a pinch, guard in a pinch, tackle in a pinch. What more could the Steelers want than have a player that can do all? Now, just like wide receiver, it seems, the Pittsburgh Steelers can find these late-round offensive linemen or undrafted offensive linemen that turn into capable spot starters for them. Think about A.Q. Shipley, B.J. Finney, that J.C. Hassenauer, even though he wasn't that good, came in and started some games for this team. And these are guys that they're pulling out of nowhere, and they're coming in and they're starting. So have a guy from a big program like Notre Dame fall into the 6th round, and comps are all over the place. You know, a lot of people were saying 4th round, 5th round grade on him. Maybe he falls around for fun. I don't know. I'm wishful thinking. So Hainsey's there in the 6th. Steelers love the versatility, love the flexibility, and they make the pick. And it shores up the O-line. It's not perfect. The O-line is not perfect. But it's a lot more durable. It's a lot more capable. And it's has a lot more depth with this Hainsey pick. With the 245th pick in round 7 of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Trill Williams, cornerback, Syracuse. Round 7, pick 245, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Trill Williams, defensive back, Syracuse. Now, comparables for Williams are all over the place. I've seen him getting taken as high as the 3rd round. I've seen him getting taken as low as the late 7th round. Here we are in the mid to late 7th round, and Trill Williams is still on the board. You take it. You take him right away. Now, he projects as a nickel corner in the league. Surprisingly enough, you have a nickel corner opening where Mike Hilton was. And Mike Hilton was a guy that, once again, one of those kind of hidden gems that they discovered. Trill Williams is one of that too. He makes a lot of plays. He's a big corner. And he's a playmaker. And I think, why would he fall here? Only because I seen mock drafts where he did. I don't know why he'd be here. And the Steelers don't necessarily need another corner, but they can't help the value. If the value's there, you run up that card. Cornerback, you took Asante Samuel based on this mock draft in the 2nd. And here, Asante Samuel comes in, nickel, dime packages. He easily eclipses, say, like a Justin Lane in that locker room. Because what has Justin Lane done? He was a project. He's still a project. I haven't seen anything from him. I didn't even know if he's on the field recently. I haven't seen him. So, Trill Williams is the pick here. Shores up that nickel cornerback position. Fights for spots. Maybe, knocks a few players. Maybe knocks Justin Lane off the roster. Who knows? Depending on how the play goes. Not that you necessarily need a corner. The pick here could easily be offensive line. The pick here could be a safety. The pick here could be a lot of different things. But Trill Williams is still sitting there in the 7th. Run that card up. Take him. You won't be disappointed. And that's, like I said, that's a key cog. With the 254th pick in the 7th round of the 2021 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Max Duffy, punter, Kentucky. Round 7, pick 254. The last pick of the Steelers draft, one of the last picks in the draft. The Pittsburgh Steelers select Max Duffy, punter from Kentucky. Now, If you go back and watch some of my wishful thinking mock drafts in the past, seemingly every one, I think just about every one, I have called for Jordan Berry's head, and I have picked a punter in every single mock draft. And yet every year, it seems, even this last year where they finally moved on to Dustin Colquitt or Brandon Colquitt, one of the Colquitts, I was like, finally, they got rid of Jordan Berry. Because I was tired of seeing his mediocre punts. I was tired of seeing his terrible field position and this low punts. Whoa, that was a bad punt. Thanks, Jordan Berry. That's where you hear all the time. Whoa, that was not far. Yeah, thanks. So Jordan Berry, after he got his job back from Colquitt, was serviceable. He's still bottom 10 punters in the league. He's just not good. And I don't know why they bring him back every year. The Steelers need someone who will change the field, change the positioning on the field. And Max Duffy is also Australian. He has a rugby style, good or bad. But he can kick in various ways. But what he excels at, and what I've never remember ever seeing Jordan Berry do, is he is a coffin corner specialist. He can kick and land that ball inside the 10, inside the 5. When's the last time you remember Jordan Berry doing anything like that? When's the last time, actually I do remember a couple times last year, but prior to that, for his entire career, where he made a punt and the defender looked up and went and backpedaled. When's the last time that happened? Jordan Berry did it maybe a handful of times last year. How about a punter does that on every punt, or the majority of punts? A big leg punter. A big leg punter who can, pin people inside the 10, inside the 5. Change the position. Let that defense that you're investing heavily into go to work. They don't think about that. I swear they don't think about that. They don't think about special teams. The special teams coordinator was at Max Duffy's pro day. Now, Duffy is 28 years old. That's an old rookie. Luckily, punters punt into their 40 plus. And this is a 7th round pick, one of the last picks in the draft. You're basically saving the post-draft, undrafted free agent frenzy by getting him here. You need a punter to compete with Jordan Berry. You need a punter to take Jordan Berry's job. Wouldn't be shocked if they don't take a punter. Wouldn't be shocked if Duffy or another punter is on their free agent post-draft list. Because he needs to be. Because the fact remains that I can't have another season and Jordan Berry's the punter. I just can't. He's not good. And you have the ability to get someone that'll change the game. Now, Duffy's not a boomer. I don't know if there is any punter in this draft that's like a boomer, that's just giant in kicks, long hang time, 60, 70-yard punts, monsters. That's really what you need. But if you're telling me it ends Jordan Berry's reign and can pin people inside the 10 and the 5, sign me up. Well, that'll do it. The 2021 Tom's Wishful Thinking mock draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below if you're still watching. Let me know who the Steelers should draft in the first round. Let me know your whole draft. Copy and paste it in the comments below. I will respond to any and all comments. But draft is next week. Always an exciting time. It's Steelers Christmas. And, sometimes you get socks. Sometimes you get a PlayStation 5. It'll be interesting to see what the Steelers do. Sometimes those socks turn out to be a PlayStation 5. Sometimes you don't think anything of it, and it turns out that, a player that they took that you're like, I'm not really high on this guy, ends up being a monster, a superstar, great player. And then sometimes they end up being Trill Williams. So, what are you going to do? I'll probably be on, if you're actually still watching, I'll probably be on Saturday night after the draft, hopefully, to do some live Steelers draft fallout like I did last year. Had a lot of fun doing that. So definitely considering being live with you to discuss all things Steelers, draft fallout, who they took, how you feel about it, all that stuff. I'm sure some of you were in the camp of, I didn't do enough to shore up the offensive line. If this draft fell this way, you'd have a capable starting center in Meinerz. You would have a capable depth piece in Hainsey that plays multiple positions. And maybe in that circumstance that you call Big Al up. Now, I know Big Al's meeting with the Ravens this week. Give him a 1-year deal. Bring him back, as the potential to start over Banner. And then let's say Big Al can do it one more year. Big Al did not have a great year last year, but neither did anybody on the offensive line. So maybe Big Al comes back, competes with Banner for the top spot, maybe loses out. Say Banner takes the spot, Banner gets injured, and Al comes in. There's worse scenarios. So maybe they take their tackle of the future. Very possible. Maybe they don't take running back in the first or second. Then what's the point? And might as well stick with Benny and McFarland and see what you got out of this season. But I'll tell you this, you're going to be that same one-dimensional football team if they are. I need one of those top running backs. I got to have it. And the rumor is, and the smart money is by 55, they're gone. I played with scenarios when I was making this draft where I had the Steelers taking somebody like a J.C. Horn and a Micah Parsons in the first and getting Najee in the second. Wouldn't that be great? Because then you couldn't even complain. Then they still ended up with Najee or Etienne or Williams in the second. Wow. But I didn't see a scenario where that would work. With the ramp up of talk of Najee going to the Dolphins at 18 and Etienne being off the board early second and Williams being off the board maybe early second, it doesn't look promising. And there's teams ahead of us, if they let him go the second round, that must have a running back. Think about Atlanta. Atlanta's not going to take a running back at 4, but they trade down a couple spots. They trade down a couple times in this draft or trade deep into the draft. Somebody makes a run up at 4 and trades a lot of picks. They will very likely take a running back. So you have to think about those sort of things. I feel pretty good about this draft. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you are new here or, if you're returning back, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, like John Bailey did, there's a link in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a TomWasHere t-shirt, you can do so. Spreadshirt shop link is in the description, as well as links to my eBay store, Clubhouse, Facebook page, and Instagram. But that'll wrap it up for Tom's 4th annual Wishful Thinking mock draft. And until the next video, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.